All right, howdy doody party people. I'm gonna keep this howdy doody thing rolling because it's fun. My name is Sydney Williams. Welcome to the Hiking My Feelings Wilderness Wellness Center. Well, not yet. That's what we're building. That's what's in the picture. So this is a campfire. We're sitting around it and we're here to tell some stories. And after the last few weeks, I think we could all use some laughs. So I brought in two of the funniest women I know. Amy Lisewski, who owns Finest City Improv. She like lives and breathes the words yes and Michelle LeRoy, who's one of my BFFs, who's been like of all the friends that I have that are still alive today, Michelle's been around the longest, so that's pretty cool. And we're just going to talk about life and how improv can make it better and how we can visualize the world we want to live in with the power of yes and other improv principles. So what you're looking at here is phase one of the Wilderness Wellness Center. That's what we're raising money to build. And as a reminder, this is a fundraiser for us and also the American Diabetes Association and RAINN. So if you're unfamiliar, the American Diabetes Association is on a mission to make the lives of people with diabetes a little bit better, and they're looking for a cure. So whether that's type 1, type 2, or pre-diabetes, they got your back. And RAINN is the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. They run an excellent hotline for survivors of sexual assault. So if you need someone to talk to about something that happened to you, they're a great first stop. And they've got a lot of good resources for folks that have survived the worst thing that can happen to the human body, short of being murdered, which is sexual assault. So if you are in need of support, that's a great place to start. Today, I'm going to be reading from chapter 12 in this book that I wrote called Hiking My Feelings, Stepping into the Healing Power of Nature. Today's mantra is I make time to reflect on my life. So what does that mean? Well, I'm wearing the oldest thing that I could find, which isn't really that old, but representative of an old time in my life, which was when I was on the women's rowing team at the University of Kansas. I got this t-shirt like 6 months ago when I went to Kansas. So it's not an old shirt, but it represents a part of my life and a story that I had a really hard time claiming because I thought I never won a regatta and I didn't row varsity. So was I even a rower? I don't know. But I've since reclaimed that story. I'm reclaiming it tonight. Everybody's got a little bit of a costume, so we're pretty excited about it. It's going to get a little wild. But if you're following along, chapter 11, I was pretty stoked about quitting my job. And then I went for a hike and it kind of changed my life. And so now we're going to the top of this mountain where I realized that I was hiking my feelings instead of eating and drinking them. And now, chapter 12, we're going to start on page 153. It's called Bill Hicks Was Right About Everything. And when I get done reading, I'll tell you who Bill Hicks is if you don't know. So page 153, chapter 12, here we go. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, we're going. All right. The 2 weeks after I left the startup was a weird limbo space. I had been holding onto my work-issued laptop as collateral, which was hilarious considering I was owed close to $13,000 and the computer was worth $750. Barry and I had been training for the Trans-Catalina Trail and we felt super prepared. I picked up some extra items to keep on me in case my blood sugar went low and ended up picking up a different pair of shoes for the trip so I could have a bit more grip. On the day we were scheduled to leave San Diego to embark on our second journey across the island, we had an easy travel day planned. We got everything packed up the night before. Barry couldn't get out of his opening shift, so it would be an early start for him. We planned on heading up to Long Beach in the afternoon, crashing with our friends again, then we'd wake up, take the 6 a.m. ferry to Avalon, and hit the trail. We woke up early on June 1st, and I dropped Barry off at work. I drove back home, packed up the car with all of our gear, made some tea, lit some incense in my office, sat down in my big yellow chair, turned on my salt lamp, grabbed my journal, and started free writing about the adventure that would start tomorrow. Friday, June 1st, 2018. Tomorrow, our adventure on the Trans-Catalina Trail begins. In this moment, I'm nervous AF. I weighed my bag and I'm coming in hot at 30 pounds without water or the gimbal. I'm trying to cut weight, but there's nothing left to cut except food. Everything else is packed. I also got paid today, the final balance Molly owes me. I'm returning the computer before I pick up Barry. Pretty excited about that and all of this, and glad that all of this will be over by the time we leave. Thank God. Now that that cord will be cut, I'm interested to see how I feel once it is. This is going to be a doozy. This trip is very symbolic in some regards. A break in my career, a break in the weight loss. I don't want to put too much pressure on this hike, so I'll say this. I'm excited to see what comes up for me, how it feels, where it comes from, and most importantly, is it mine? I've realized so much of what I've experienced day to day isn't mine. People projecting and reacting. Cosmic shit. Past life shit. If nothing else, I want to take my time, enjoy the ride, and appreciate every step I'm able to take. If nothing else, I want to take a good look at whatever comes up and let myself explore whether it's mine or not, and then process accordingly. If nothing else, I'm thrilled to have this time with Barry. We have been through a lot and it feels like an upswing, and I'm so grateful for his support. If nothing else, I'm prepared to be in awe of my body. I've done some deep work to get to this point, and the work continues on and off the trail. Truthfully, the majority of the work is mental, not physical. Just like this hike. Intensely physical, yes, but we're walking. I closed my journal. Something nudged me to open again. Nope, not done. I continued writing. I'm so thankful that I have Barry to share this with. Yesterday, he was so kind to me, so gentle, while I was laying there crying. This whole thing feels like a lot. Sometimes I find myself worried that I'm going to die before I'm ready, and sometimes that doesn't sound too bad, to die. I want to keep track of this. I feel intuitively that most of those feelings will go away when I get on the trail, but if they don't, I want to note that, for a couple reasons. I can't bypass the talking part of my process and skip right to hiking my feelings. Fortunately, I can walk and talk, so that's why I'm so calm about it, but I want to be sure I acknowledge that I don't make a habit of putting off dealing with it until I'm on the trail. Otherwise, the trail could become a block, and I wouldn't want that. I can prevent hating hiking because knowing the way I grew to hate skydiving by honoring and enjoying my newness. In skydiving, I always had one eye toward the podium. I didn't stay as present in the process as I could have. I always wanted to be better and was disappointed with what was. With this, I'm leaning heavily into my newbie status and also going to be paying attention to my limits and how I can push them appropriately. I closed my journal again. The urge to continue writing came back. I reopened my journal and continued. Yesterday, I had a call with Jens and Alex, the production team for the diabetes documentary we did in January 2018, and we were moving forward with the pilot of this new storytelling platform. I recorded my first video journal entry today and sent the link to Alex for review. We'll see what they say. I plan to do a video journal every morning, actually. I like the idea of that better than the idea of writing heavily. I'll keep a journal, of course, but primarily want to be fresh for video entries. I'm pumped to run around Little Harbor on the 4th and just enjoy this body. I'm even going to ask Barry if he'll take pictures of me in my bikini when we get there. I don't want to have one single regret from this trip. Not one. And if that means asking for what I want, taking my time to take pictures, and savoring every moment. This is the first week of my new life. Once I drop this computer off, I am free. I've always been free to be me, and this is hella exciting because now I know that. I don't need permission to already feel this way, but it's certainly going to feel official once we get through that. I don't have anything left to say to her. I think my parting words will be, I'm excited to see you take this as far as I've always known you could. Best of luck. Deuces. Now it's time to hike my feelings, be confidently weird, and move toward my core desired feelings, generous, grounded, joy. I love me. I love Barry. I love fam. I love cat. I love puggles. See you on the other side. I closed my journal again, and I started thinking about how Adam wrote his mom a note about what to do if he dies before he went on the trip he never came home from. At the time, she thought it was so weird that he'd do that, but that letter ended up being the wishes she carried out as memorial. I opened my journal again. Jesus, okay, let's wrap it up. I had this weird wave come over me, and it felt like see you on the other side was super morbid. To be clear, I love this life, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And it's okay that I'm scared of what comes next. The not knowing, more like not believing, is something I hope to work through on the trail because that shit is getting old. But now that I'm rabbit holing here, if something happens to me or Barry on this trip and you find this journal, please tell our love story. This is so dramatic. Talk about how Barry thought I was giving him googly eyes, and for 8 years I denied it. It was true. I did. I loved him the moment I saw him. Talk about how all we ever wanted, collectively and separately, was to be happy and free, because for us, that's this hike. And it's more hikes after this. It's writing books from our cabin in the woods and hosting hikers who are through hiking the nearby trail. Trail angels. I want to be trail angels, and I want to serve Cat's mac and cheese, the one Adam loved, and mochi to hikers, plus Barry's burger and shepherd's pie, and that freaking waffle, olive oil, sea salt combo for dessert. I want a triple crown long distance hikes with Barry. I want us to figure out a way to turn our love story into a framework for the growth of humans, how to love ourselves and each other. Barry is such a good teacher, and his visions for education in America are beautiful. I don't know why I feel like I have to get this out, but I guess I'll just go with it. Fucking morbid. So yeah, trail angels who hike and raise goats and grow food and write books and take pictures and just have a place or community who can receive all this love that we have to give. I closed the journal again. Nope, not done. Good God, when will this end? What is happening? I continued writing. I'm so excited to go to Norway with Dad. It's like a redemption tour of sorts. Our last trip together was rough. I've grown up a lot, and so has Dad, TBH. I'm really excited to see what is possible here. I'd love to help him turn his content into ebooks and generate enough passive income for them so that they could do whatever they want. They deserve it. I'm looking forward to adventures with Whitney and Bruno and spoiling their babies. I love that Whit and I are getting closer, and I love that she's been sharing stuff with me. Feels really nice. I'm so excited for Kat. I feel like sometimes I'm a stage 5 clinger because she's so cool, and then I'm like, oh shoot, she's my sister from another mister. We've been friends for lifetimes. She's going to do amazing things because she's an incredible woman. I hope she sees and believes that soon. And as far as Barry goes, the main reason I'm excited about this hike is I can finally, truly, 100% feel like I can see myself the way he's always seen me. I've said that before, but I didn't really get it until very recently. He's my rock and my best friend, and he gets me, and somehow he still loves me. I'm the luckiest woman in the world to have him to spend the rest of my life with. Damn it. I don't know why I'm crying, but I hope we come home safe, and this is all just a gratitude exercise and not a morbid letter. I close the journal again and wipe the tears from my eyes. I turned to a new page. If I die, I started the new entry. Cremate me and take me around the world. Barry knows the places, I wrote, streaming tears down my face. I listed the places I wanted my ashes spread, a combination of places that are significant for me and Barry, where the creek runs through Limekiln Park and runs out to the ocean, Catalina Island, Sunset Cliffs, and places that we had talked about visiting but hadn't seen yet, Banff, Costa Rica, all the national parks. I continued. Maybe I'm saying bye to an old identity. Maybe I'm psychic AF and some bad shit is going to happen. Maybe I'm psychic AF and I know that once I close this journal and put it down and load up the car and lock the door, I'm forever changed. Maybe I'm realizing the weight and ease of that. Maybe I finally know that I'm going to be okay. Barry and Bill Hicks were right about everything. Everything. Heart, sparkles, rainbows, and unicorns, Sydney. I closed the journal, put the cap on my pen, and picked up my phone. It was time to pick up Barry and hit the road. The dogs would be staying home this time, so I made sure they had water and let them out one last time before I left, wrote a note for the dog sitter, and got in the car. I didn't have time to go to Molly's first. I needed to go get Barry. I picked him up, asked him about his day, and went through all the possible things I could say to Molly when I gave her the computer back. We pulled up to her place, and I walked up to the patio, which was right by the gate to get into the building, just like I did every day I came to work. I felt myself get a bit nostalgic. I had visions of buying the last undeveloped lot on Sunset Cliffs Boulevard, building a casita in the back for my parents, swimming in my money like Scrooge McDuck. The visions I had for this chapter of my life that would never come to fruition. She came out to greet me. Awkward small talk was exchanged, and I mentioned that we were headed to Catalina Island to hike the TCT again. I handed her the computer and said, "Have a lovely, lovely time." I walked back to my car. Smooth, Sydney. What does that even mean? My last words to one of my best friends are, "Have a lovely, lovely time"? Seriously? I had played this exchange out so many times in my head and was ready for an epic monologue if the situation called for it. It was so anticlimactic. An unemotional end to an emotionally turbulent chapter of my life. A MacBook Air doesn't weigh much, as the name would indicate. But the second I handed off that computer, I felt lighter. I had a bit more pep in my step. Energetically, the cord was cut. This was the last connection I had to this woman and this business, and I was about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime, with nothing in my way while I was there, and nothing to return to when I got done hiking across the island. This was a clean slate, a fresh start, and I was going to take advantage of this opportunity. I got back in the car, recounted the conversation to Barry, and just laughed. When a movie gets made about our lives, that scene will be so awkward, I thought to myself. As we pulled onto the freeway, Barry looked at me and smiled. Ready to have a great time? Yes, I was. Catalina, here we come, I said, looking out at the window at nothing in particular, lost in my own thoughts. It was time to start a new adventure. Boom! So that is that chapter. And one of the questions that we had for this chapter that I think is interesting and is part of my intro to our next guest is, when you're dead, what do you want people to remember about you? One of the turning points in my life, and I already described this was in chapter 10, I believe, You Don't Need the Money, was when my next guest, Amy Lisewski, the owner of Finest City Improv, had a Bon Voyage party at the theater. So this was like April, May-ish of 2018. And the people that worked at the theater had like coordinated a show. Some of the parts were scripted, some of them were improv games, some of it was just like all kinds of fun. And at the end, everybody that like gave a shit about Amy got on stage and was talking about how she had impacted their life and how this community had impacted their life and how this theater was like their church or their home or their safe space or whatever. And I was just in the audience sobbing. And at this point, I didn't really know Amy. I knew she owned the theater, but I was just so impressed, one, that a single person with a dream could make such a big impact. And two, in all the years that I was skydiving, 23 of my friends died in 4 years. And over the course of losing 23 friends, there's a lot of memorial stories and honoring people and sharing funny quips and pictures and all this stuff. And we do that after they're dead. So like the person that we're talking about and the person that we're honoring never has the chance to understand the impact that they've made. So in this moment, while Amy's like definitely not dead, she's just going to go sail up the East Coast. All these people are just like, I love you and here's why. You've changed my life and here's why. And I was just like, this is the feeling that I want to have while people are still alive, because for all of the people that I lost, they never got to hear those kinds of things. There wasn't a big celebration of their life while they were still here. So that's a really long way of introducing Amy Lisewski. Come on down, Girl Scout leader. Here we go.
All right, girls, you can come back out of your tent. She's done reading finally. Oi, Sydney.
Hello, you got your bug juice and your headlamp. This is looking
my
good.
Headlamp off. It's probably making it hard for you to see. Let me get this off. You know, Sydney, as your scout leader, I gotta say, I looked up what AF means. You said AF a lot.
A lot. I did.
I know what that means now, and I'm proud of you, girl. Because I just say fuck a lot.
Yeah. Like a comma. Basically, it's a punctuation mark.
I'm gonna start using that. I didn't think I could learn a thing from you, but I just did. And
maybe.
I think you just had a big impact on my life.
I think you've had a big impact on my life.
Oh, good. But I see you're not wearing your sash. And do
I get a demerit for that? Is that how that works?
Well, I was prepared to give you your patch for this one right here, reading around a campfire during pandemic. But you don't got your sash, so I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to do it again tomorrow night, and maybe the next night, and the next night, and maybe the next night. I don't know how many more nights, but a bunch more nights.
Yeah, but this is like we're on the last week now.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you could make it, though. I mean,
well, can we get the rest of the girls around the campfire?
Yeah, let's get everybody around the campfire. Ladies, come on down.
Come on.
Bring
your paddles.
Turn it on. Make it happen.
Paddles. Let's go.
Wear your sash, wear your jackets, bring your headlamps, bring your bug juice.
Paddle. There you go. Okay, good. All right, campers of the great canoe trip. Now listen up. You had a great job today. Good job getting back in the canoe, Sydney, when you fell out of that. I was proud of you, girl. Yeah. You don't cry for more than 10 minutes. Thank you.
Just 10. It's my limit. I try to tamp it down.
All right, now listen. You know what our mission is. We got 1 week to canoe, to paddle through the Adirondacks. We're going from first lake to second lake to third lake. You did a great job on first lake today. But as you know, not all these lakes are connected by water. And when that happens, we have to portage. Portage. Okay, well, I can see by the looks on your faces that you don't know what I'm talking about. Portage.
We're making porridge?
We're going to portage AF. All right. What's a portage, you say? Portage is a true test of your strength and your character, of your resolve. That's what a portage is. Tomorrow we find out what kind of women you all are, what kind of women you're going to be one day. Now, it's a hike of sorts, but with heavy aluminum canoes that we're going to be putting on our backs. Those same ones that got you to the lake today, those are going on your backs tomorrow, right on top of those metal backpacks. Yeah, with all your gear in it. You thought those were heavy. Oh, wait till you get those canoes on them. You know what? You're going to need one of your fellow scout members, so look around you. Pick your scout member. Sydney, don't pick. And you're going to need them to help you carry that, all right? Because it's heavy. It takes 2 of you. We're going from first lake to second lake. There's no way around it. There is no way around it unless you're weak. Are you weak? Are you really? Are you? I don't know. I mean, your many years at Camp Glengarra, drinking blood juice and going on mud hikes and practicing whittling sticks in your safety circle. Show me your safety circles, girls. Show me your safety circles. There you go. Keep it safe. God damn it, Sydney. That is not a safety circle. It's not about love. It's about being a Girl Scout. I liked when Jess today swam in that freezing cold water. She didn't cry, did she? No, she did not. We have been planning for the past 4 years, ever since second grade from this. Ever since you walked that bridge from Brownies to Girl Scouts. This is what it's all been for. Portage. Big adventures. More dangerous, more challenging. No more sugar and spice, girls. There's nothing nice about what's ahead of you tomorrow. And I expect you to show me all what you're really made of. Now, no complaining, no excuses, except Sydney. Sydney, you'll carry the paddles and the life jackets. All right. Just like I did. Just like I did in 1981. The summer of 81, I was 11 years old, just after 5th grade. And there were a dozen girls just like you, just like me, except college girls, not ancient like me. And we paddled up the same chain of lakes, girls, camping out each night under the stars, slugging our food up in the trees so the bears couldn't get us. Oh, man. We lived out in the wilderness, in our t-shirts, in our corduroy shorts, in our striped knee-high socks that just perfectly covered my birthmark just below my knee. It's very embarrassing. I have a very big birthmark just below my knee, and I don't like it. Don't look at it. Some of us were getting our periods, and some of you were not, or not, and some of you are wearing training bras, and some of us were not, and that was okay. Some of us just hadn't gotten there yet. Some of us have been talking and saying, "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret." And God wasn't responding in that department, and that's okay. Some of us might never. But it was one of the happiest times of my life. It's like you girls. We all love being outdoors, being on the water, sleeping in tents, giant trees, cooking over the campfire, making s'mores. Ooh, telling ghost stories. Is it on? God damn it! Who was supposed to get batteries, Sydney? You know,
That's my bad. I'm so sorry.
When it came to that
I let
portage,
you down.
my very first portage. Don't let me down tomorrow. But when it came to my very first portage, no matter how I fought with all my might to carry a large aluminum canoe on my shoulders, I couldn't. I was too scrawny. I was too weak. It didn't make sense. I was an ace softball player. I could ride a BMX bike over a dirt jump that I built. I could catch more fish than any dumb boy, but I couldn't hoist the canoe onto my head. So I was singled out to carry everyone's paddle and orange life jackets. I was weak, and I let everyone down. I was the runt. You know I'm talking about, Sydney. You know. Now, these aluminum canoes, sure, they weigh like 500 pounds, give or take, a lifelong dream or whatnot. And some of you are going to struggle carrying all that extra weight tomorrow. You're going to feel weak, like I did. And you're going to tell yourself you should be stronger. Never mind, you barely weigh 80 pounds. Like you're going to feel like a damn loser. I dropped my paddle. Hold on. Sacred object. Sorry, when I get passionate, my voice gets lower and grumblier. I've been through a lot. Now, like me, you're going to feel like a damn loser. You look determined, but you have flaws, all of you. You can't see my paddle, but I'm pointing at you because there's a green screen. Because it's actually dark here. Okay, now, there's a song that I like to sing when I struggle in order to not show my flaws when I'm going through challenging times. And it's a song as ancient as I am. It's a song that's going to help us all push through the pain of carrying our heavy burdens, even when Sydney drops that paddle or life jacket as ours. So, it's called Going on a Bear Hunt, and I need you all to join in with me. Can you do that here? It's a call and response, and here goes something like this. We got to clap. We got to slap your hands and clap, or slap your hands. Let's snap. Slap your hands and clap. We're going on a bear hunt.
Going on a bear hunt.
We're going to start over because I can't hear you all. 5, 6.
We're all muted.
We're going on a bear hunt.
We're going
Going
on
on
a
a
bear
bear
hunt.
hunt.
We're going to catch a big one.
We're gonna catch a big
Catch a
one.
big one.
God, tomorrow's going to be hard. I'm not scared.
I'm not.
I'm not
I'm not
scared.
What a
scared.
beautiful day.
What a beautiful
Beautiful
day.
All
day.
right, I'm just going to do this next part. Uh-oh, grass. Long, wavy grass. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. We can't go. Oh no, we gotta go through it. Now, first of all, ladies, I just want to point out that grass doesn't hurt you. Not this kind, anyway. I mean, this is kind of silly. Sissies don't worry about grass. Anyway, the song goes swishy swashy, swishy swashy. Everybody, swishy swashy,
Swishy, squashy, swishy, squashy.
Good, you got through the grass. We're going on a bear hunt.
We're going on a bear hunt.
hunt.
Gonna catch a big one.
Gonna
Gonna
catch
catch
a
a
big
one.
I'm not scared.
I'm not scared.
It's a beautiful day.
It's
It's
a
a
beautiful
beautiful
day.
day.
Uh-oh, a river. A cold, deep river. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh, no. We got to go through it. So we go splash, 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 splash.
Splash, splash, splash,
Splash,
splash.
splash.
All right, good. At least one of you knows how to swim. God damn it. We're going on a bear hunt.
We're going on a bear hunt.
Gonna catch a big one.
We're
Gonna
gonna
catch a big one.
I'm not scared.
I'm not scared.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a
It's a
beautiful day.
beautiful day.
Oh, mud. Thick, oozy mud. Now, first of all, mud washes out. Can we just be real honest about this? Mud's not the worst thing that you can encounter. In fact, sometimes I like to get dirty. Girls like to get dirty. Anyway, thick, oozy mud. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Blah, 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 blah. We got to go through it. Everybody, squelch, squirch, squelch, squirch.
Well,
Squelch, 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 squirch.
I like that. You got that. Yeah, okay. We're going on a bear hunt.
we're
We're
going on a bear
Going
hunt.
on a bear
Gonna catch a
hunt.
big one.
Gonna catch
Gonna
a big
catch a
one.
big
I'm
one.
not scared.
I'm
I'm not
scared.
scared.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day.
Oh, shit, a forest.
Oh shit, a florist?
Yeah, big dark forest.
Oh, forest.
Forest. Yeah, we can't go over it. We can't go under it. We can't even go around this one. Jeez, we got to go through it. Stumble trip, stumble trip.
Stumble trip,
Stumble
stumble
trip,
trip.
stumble trip.
Yeah, one more time. We're going on a bear hunt.
We're
Going
going on
on
a
a
bear
bear
hunt.
Gonna catch a big one.
We're
Gonna catch a big
I'm
one.
not scared.
I'm not scared.
What a beautiful day.
What a beautiful day.
day.
This is when it gets scary. Oh, a cave. A narrow, gloomy cave. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. We got to go through it. Tiptoe, tiptoe. What's that? One shiny, wet nose. Two big, furry ears. Two big, goggly eyes. No, it's not the kid behind you. It's a bear! Ah! Quick! Through the cave, tiptoe, tiptoe. Back to the forest, stumble, trip, stumble, trip. Back to the mud, squitch, squelch, squitch, squelch. Back to the river, splish, splash, splish, splash. Back to the grass, swishy, swash, swishy, swash. Go out front door, open the door, up the stairs, hide under your bed and never come out. Oh no! Oh no! And start drinking. I'm sorry, that song got a little out of control. A little out of control. I'm really sorry. Now, I know what you're all thinking, Miss Scout Leader Lisewski. That song's a metaphor, and we know all that. And that cave part was a stand-in for our JJs, and that's gross. And of course, we would run away from that. But no, Sydney and friends, that's not the end of the story. Because 2 summers later, I went back to do the Great Canoe Trip again. Now you're probably wondering, wait, that's 2 years. Why did you skip a year of the Great Canoe Trip? Well, that's because the year after 6th grade, I signed up for a Girl Scout camp called The Farmer's Daughter. It's where you went and you milked cows and fed chickens and petted goats. I don't know. You don't have to carry a canoe on your head. You just got to get up really early in the morning. Anyway, I didn't make it to that summer camp, though. Nope, because I spent the summer receiving radiation treatment for ovarian cancer. Yeah, that explained a lot about why I was so weak that previous summer. Yeah, that cancer thing at 12 years old. About the same age of all of you. Yeah, right about now. Yeah, ovaries going haywire and shit. That was explaining why I wasn't developing in all sorts of ways you other 6th grade girls were doing. Yeah, that cave was closed for maintenance, no reopening date. Back away! Funny thing is the summer of 1982, you know what the #1 song on the radio was for many months? Dun, 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 dun. Rising up, straight to the top. Yeah, eye of the tiger. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, and nothing will give you the eye of the tiger, like seeing the terror in every pair of eyes surrounding you. This is a ghost story. Lying in a hospital bed after the doctor says the C word. Your moms, your dads, your brothers, the doctors, the nurses, some random dude that just walked by. All these eyes telling you to fight like a girl. Fight for your life. Don't let anyone down. I had the eye of the tiger. I was a fighter. I was a winner. Every cancer survivor is a fighter of sorts. But I became the Princess Leia of 12-year-old cancer. A fight to the death, or isn't it against death? That's weird. Okay, at the time, this was less the death, which was less tangible than I fought the fear that I was seeing in everybody's eyes around me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and they needed me to save the Alliance. Now, I'm not trying to scare you girls. Boo! Your ovaries are gone. No, I wouldn't do that to you. Okay, I'm trying to say, and it's just us girls at the campfire. I feel it's a little hard for me to share this, but I want you to do this for you. I'm trying to say that sometimes as we're trudging along, we're trying to carry these heavy canoes on our backs. There's a bear, and we don't even know it's in these woods. I mean, first of all, that's where bears live. They live in the woods. That's elementary. I understand that. But what I'm trying to say, and girls, you can't go around it. And sometimes you can't go over it. And you're not getting under it. You got to go through it. And if you're too weak to carry a canoe while you're doing it, there might be a goddamn good reason. Or as Sydney says, a reason as fuck. I mean AF. And more so, if you do lift the canoe on your back, when you get to the next lake, God damn it, be sure to take the canoe off your back. That shit's heavy. So the second time, 1983, after 7th grade, after fighting to beat cancer so that no one around me would be scared or crying or sad, I was back on the great canoe trip. Except this time, somebody else was carrying the paddles and the life jackets. I was big enough and strong enough to carry a canoe. And you know what I thought about the whole goddamn time I struggled from lake to lake with that aluminum canoe on my back? How nice it would be after a long day of paddling for miles to let someone stronger carry it so I could just carry the damn paddles and life jackets. And damn it if it didn't take me almost 30 years to realize that during my whole ordeal with cancer, and for many years after that, I didn't let anyone carry my canoe for me, much less my paddles or my life jacket. Jesus Christ, look at me sharing my feelings. Damn you, girls! Here, somebody hold my marshmallow stick. Thing should be burnt to a crisp. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, girls, if you always insist on trying to carry your own canoe through the woods, well, you're gonna make life a lot harder for yourself. Try to be so strong all the time. And that bear is going to catch you and he's going to claw your face. He's going to throw you around. He's going to chew you up a bit in your parts and he's going to spit you out bloody. There's going to be little bodies everywhere for everybody to see. And they're not going to find you because you forgot to sign in for the trail book and nobody knows you're out in the woods anyway. So go on to that next lake. And when you carry a canoe, when you can carry the canoe, you carry the canoe. And when you can't you let someone else carry it. That's all I'm trying to say. You carry the paddles. And well, that doesn't make you a loser, I guess. Even you, Sydney. Now eat your damn s'mores and get your asses to bed. We got a big day tomorrow. We got a portage.
Woo!
That's all I got.
Well, that's a story I've never heard before. So thanks for sharing. I like it.
Seemed appropriate for the moment.
Wow. So like, what was that like? What do you do when you're 12 and that happens?
You can't carry a canoe? That's rough. It's embarrassing. People looking at you going, I thought you were tough. Oh, you mean having cancer? Yeah, that sucks too.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at you too. They make a big deal out of you. And you just, especially sixth grade, because it's all about the lady parts, and those are done
Yeah.
for. And as it was, you're sitting there, doing the we must increase our bust thing, and like trying to figure out, yeah, you're looking at girls that are developing and nobody's talking about it, and next thing you know, you got doctors sticking all kinds of stuff in places, and yeah, it's what it does is the big story, and then working on a solo show, and that's kind of a little piece from that, though I made a new version of it just for this. But there's a part in there where I talk about the whole thing is I fought like hell, and I felt like I had to take it on because I didn't like seeing all the feelings that were happening around me. It was scary, and so instead of talking about it, we fought. We fought it. We had a clear. We found a clear target to fight, right? And as long as we could fight cancer, and once it was 5 years later and it was cured, everything was fine. Well, it wasn't AF, because I completely didn't learn how to be vulnerable, and it took me, like I said, like almost 30 years to realize I should have just said, "Can I have a hug?" I don't remember ever,
Yeah.
I remember just taking it all on myself and holding it in and being like, "I got this. Don't worry about it." And so I spent my whole life just like fighting and taking everything on myself and never being able to ask for help. And yeah, so I have lots and lots more information about that. But that's what I learned from it. And it to me, when I read your book and you talked about unpacking the backpack and getting the things out that didn't serve you anymore, and I started thinking about this great canoe trip was one of the um, happiest moments of my life. But also I was seriously, what I remember most about the first one was that I was embarrassed that I had to be the little runt that couldn't carry the damn canoe. And
Right.
like, hello, you probably had cancer at that point. You weighed like 70, 80 pounds, and like those aluminum canoes are heavy AF. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like I never, once I got the canoe on and I was like, I can do it, I never let the canoe come off.
Dang. Yeah. That is heavy. That's a long time to be walking around with a canoe on your back. How do you get through doors?
Yeah, that's really hard because you can't go sideways at all.
Yeah, like it's just not even an option. That
Mm-mm.
kind of limits your
No,
experience.
and like it takes up a lot of your bed, so it's really hard to like, have somebody over for the night because they're like, "What's this giant canoe here for?" And I'm like, "Just
What are we
leave it
doing with
between
this?
us. Just don't move it."
Oh my gosh. So tell me a little bit about how you got into improv and why you started a theater. Like, what was your path to get there?
Well, I've always been a little ham, from about the age of 3, starting with tap dance class. But I love acting. I just love performing. I don't know why. And I think might have to. I love taking risks, and I love. I think I like being. I love the applause. What can I say? It also doesn't feel very personal, and people are like, "That's so vulnerable." I'm like, "No, it's. I wouldn't tell you that like one on one." But I'm getting better at that. But what I
Yeah.
did is when I was when I went to school, I was studying acting and dance along with television and radio. When I went to New York City, though, I was like, I gotta work in a real job. Now that real job was experimental video, so still hilarious. Not really a real job, but more lucrative than dancing or acting. And honestly, I was pretty scared. I was like, no, there's just a bazillion blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls out there trying to be actors, and what makes me being the one that could make it. And so I went with more the safer route, experimental video. And then and then I worked for Time Life Medical, because I actually really needed money and they hired me. So anyway, long story short, many years later, I did get a master's in library science because I love learning, and I thought, oh, librarians just get to learn all the time, so I did. And then I was consulting, doing information management and research, and I was really missing the creative side and the acting, so I started doing it. And my acting teacher, I remember her saying, "Would you please just go do improv?" And I was like, "You can do that? You can just make." I'm like, "First of all, why?" And she said, "Well, you're a character, and also you never stick to the script. You never do the same thing twice." And I'm like, "Yeah, why would I? That's boring." And so then I was like, oh, so then I went and studied at the Second City, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the yes and. I fell in love with the every single show is different. It's not that we don't prepare for them, but we don't plan them. and we never do them again. And we do some like the improvised sketch shows. They follow like a pattern, they follow an outline, but even those are always a little bit different. And just that immediate feedback, that immediate reaction from the audience is just, it's a total drug. So, and then what happened is I was looking around San Diego, and I had been part of a group for a little while there, about a year. And then I was doing this stuff up in LA, and most people would just move to LA if they were going to do improv. And I didn't want to move to LA. I had actually just gotten approved to be a foster mom and was taking on a 11-year-old girl. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to move to LA now, so I'll start a theater. And that's how it started.
I love that. Well, I'm really glad you did, because improv changed my life. And I don't know how I stumbled on Finest City, but I'm glad that's where I ended up, because
Thank
I
you.
went to the intro class when Kat was still there. And I was like, oh, yep, I like it here. This is happening. Sign me up. Like, it's just, and you've built such a beautiful community. Would you say that the community that you've built at Finest City Improv is typical of improv communities, or is it special in some way?
It's hard to say. I haven't been to too many of them. It's definitely a different vibe than LA, where everybody's, striving to be an actor. So there's a little more individualness to it, individualisticness. And the other theater I was at, San Diego, I think a lot of people never felt like they could like be a part of it. So I think what's different about it is that, and I never planned this. I planned that I just wanted to stage and I wanted to do improv and do really cool shows and maybe teach some people. And then next thing I know, I was hearing things like what you said about how it was impacting people's lives and work, and how they were making changes and feeling more confident and courageous and having more joy in their life. And I was like, wait, that's always what I've done. That's why I to Teach for America and taught there for 2 years. That's why why I've done so many of my things is to help people improve their lives. That's why I wanted to get into library science. I'm like, oh wait, so I'm doing it and I'm doing improv? Cool. And then of course, Kat was a huge part of that because she was super into it. And so we just really just doubled down on that. And that's what it's been all about for us. And that by just setting that goal and committing to it, I think that's what's made a huge difference for us.
That's so cool. And so what has your life been like since COVID? Because I know there's not a lot of theatering happening. So how have you guys been pivoting, and what does the future look like for FCI?
Well, we certainly had a yes and that this is the situation now. We had literally gotten after 15 months of working on it, we had gotten our beer and wine license 2 weeks before we had to shut down for COVID. So first of all, we yelled and screamed and got sad and cried a little. And then we took care of ourselves and put it in perspective and said, people are dying and people are sick. And that's the first, most important thing. And then we said, great. Okay. How can we really slowed down and took a pause, and we had lots of discussions about what's important to us personally and professionally. And everybody was so great about like, yeah, if it can't be saved, it can't be saved. The most important thing is people's lives. And what do we want to do now? So at the same time, I hustled and was like one of the first people to apply for an EIDL and the PPP, and I got both of those. It took a long time, but got a grant from the city. So financially, we got a little bit of help. It's a huge hit. I mean, it's like our revenue's going to be half of what it was supposed to be. And all that growth that you're starting to like get traction on is just like, and it just takes time to ramp it back up, as you know. In terms of pivoting, yeah, we're doing some online stuff, but we're not doing a lot. Honestly, we are curtailing expenses, doing some things that we didn't have the energy to do before in terms of fixing the facility. And we are just staying close to the community. Every other week, we have a free online drop-in for every student that wants to play. We do a show every other week where we just have fun and try new things. We don't make money from that stuff, but it's helping us to stay connected to the community so that when we can reopen safely, we can, and as many people can come back as possible.
I love that. Yeah, it's been we didn't, I feel you on the momentum and having that be like, because March was going to be our best month yet, to where we might actually be able to pay ourselves. And then no. So like, and then everybody's like, oh, here's all the resources about small business loans. And I was like, you guys don't understand. Like, we've been doing this, we've been bootstrapping for the last 2 years. Like, we were just about to be able to pay ourselves, and we have nothing to show for history, nothing to help us qualify for this assistance. So I feel you, and I'm glad that you guys got it, because I remember reading some of your posts where it was just like, I've refreshed this website 9,000 times. How do I get this loan?
It's
Oh,
a full-time
man.
job of persistence and just, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it did take, you had to have, like really good credit scores and really good history and all this stuff. So people that were, they had newer companies, right? Like if we were in the first year of our business, I don't think we would have gotten any of that stuff. So I already had
Right.
established relationships with SBA lenders. So that helped a lot.
So you also wrote a book. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that and how that, because does that inform your like corporate training stuff as well?
Hey, Vicky, thank you. Yes, it's called Relax. We're all just making this stuff up. And out of, I was talking to a room of 600 people in a corporate event, and lots of CEOs and presidents of companies. And I just saw how anxious they got when somebody on the stage asked for a volunteer. And I'm sitting there front row going, for the love of God, let me on that stage. And I did get up on the stage, and I had so many people after come up to me, and there's a whole story behind this, but basically they said, how did you do that? And I was like, get on stage? They're like, raise your hand, like just get up. Yeah, how did you do that? I'm like, what do you mean? And it kind of hit me like, hey, you know what? None of us know exactly what's going on, not just getting up on stage, but in everything you do. And you get as much information as you can, but at some point you just got to move forward. And if you're sitting there just not moving, it's like, I've made so many mistakes. But one of my, and it's like, I feel like I'm one of those really lame stickers on the back of an SUV that's like, no regrets. But that's my thing. Like, you can't, like, sure, there's something, there's some things I wish had gone differently, but I know how they went because I did them. And I don't know how else to explain that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so it's about how in improv, I found that I had a way to talk to people about why I've always been that person that has no problem raising their hand and actually loves to get up and try stuff and do stuff, because I'm like, something good could come from it. Why wouldn't I try it? Because I know what'll happen if I don't. Nothing. And after that, like, not only did I made $500 because I won a painting by getting up on stage and somebody paid me for it immediately. I didn't pay to go to the thing. I didn't know anybody there. And then at the networking, they're like, you're the lady that jumped up on stage. You're amazing. And I'm like, that's how you do it. So put yourself out
I
there and
love
take the
that.
applause.
Because what I want to do with the group tonight, and we'll invite Michelle on as well. So Michelle, come on down. Is I want to share a little bit of a story on my end and then have you help me articulate what happened. So in improv, I learned the concept of yes and, which we'll define and explain from your mouth in a second. But what we did was, after we went to these like 2 shows back to back. This was the summer of 2018. And we came home from these concerts, and I was like, I had just talked to REI about my first speaking tour, and what they had told me was, this is an unpaid opportunity. We can't pay you, but we'll promote what you're working on and we'll list it on your website, so you'll get a lot of good like traction and stuff about your event. And I was like, all right, cool, that sounds great. So we went home, and we covered the living room in these big like sticky Post-it notes, and we just yes-anded the shit out of whatever Hiking My Feelings could be. I was like, okay, what do I want Hiking My Feelings to be? So right now, it's going to start with 3 dates of a speaking tour. And I told Barry, I was like, okay, here's the deal. We can't talk about the how. We just have to talk about the what and the why. Like, what do we want to do and why do we want to do it? So I was like, okay, if we're doing a speaking tour, what else do I want to do? I want to write a book. And then Barry was like, yes, and I was like, yeah, yes, and I want to tour the country. And he was like, yes, and I was like, yeah, yes, and I want to make a movie or film or a documentary or some kind of video, something where like we talk about healing and how nature impacts people in positive ways. And so by the end of it, we had like a diagram for what we wanted the van to look like. It was pretty close to the one we got, and all this other stuff. But it was the power of yes and that empowered us to do that and think as big as we possibly could without getting caught up in the little details of the how. So
Right.
What is yes and how has it changed your life?
Cool. So yes and is the secret to improvisation, meaning it's what makes us funny. I don't know many jokes. I understand what makes things comedic. The tool I actually use in the moment is the mindset of yes and. So you might not hear me literally say yes and stage, but what I like to say is someone has to start something on stage. We get a suggestion such as bear, and we have 30 minutes to make up something on the spot, a piece of theater. And so the first and hardest thing is someone just does something or says something. In that moment, they have given me a gift. And that gift is that action. My job is to listen carefully to what they've put down. And we talk a lot about it's like you building a house, but you don't plan what kind of house you're going to build. Someone just brings a brick and sits it down and says, "This is a brick." And I look at it and I think, I like that's a red brick. That's a good brick. And then I say, "Yeah, that is a brick. And this brick goes well with that from my collection." So what I mean is they give a gift and I'm going to say, what kind of gift can I add to that? And the most important thing with yes and is that it doesn't become just a giant brainstorming of like all the stuff that has to do with houses. So I put a brick down and immediately somebody goes, "Oh, I get it. We're building a house," and goes, "Yes, and here's a sink." So that's like a huge jump. And then I'd be like, "Yeah, and here's a window." What we were looking to do with the yes and if we're doing it well is say, you could almost add the "and because of that." So like, yes, it's a pandemic. And because of that, we're going to take a rest. Yes. And because of that rest, we are going to have time to think about what matters to us. Yes. And because we're thinking about what matters to us, we're going to set our intentions on things that we really care about. Yes. And because kind of helps a little bit. And what you're looking for is building off of whatever the other person said, because that happens. What happens after that? Sorry, I was seeing a little doggy in the background. I was like, "Who's that?" Yeah. So, and it's in like, I love what you said. And we don't have to figure out how we're going to do it. We're going to see where this leads to us, because improvisation, yes, and is the language of possibilities. And that's
I
how we
love
end
that.
up places. Now, we don't jump so quickly that we kind of can't go any further. We try to the smallest little things and discover every little juicy detail on that road, right? Does that help?
I love that. Yes. So let's do this. Michelle, what is a goal that you have as far as life goes post COVID? And then let's yes and it and like blow it out of the water. And
Okay.
then we'll invite everybody to come on screen and do the same. And we'll all go around and say like, because I know like I'm gonna call her out. Is she here? Let me see. Oh no, Laura's not here. Oh, that's a bummer. Because like Laura wants to open a bakery. So I was gonna say, well, like yes and her bakery. But
Cool.
let's start with you and see where it goes.
One of my major goals, hi Michelle, is to produce a musical. And that was one of my goals for 2020. But because of COVID, I feel I'm gonna have to push that off. But that's definitely a goal of mine, is to produce a musical.
Cool. So we're gonna start with, you're gonna say, "I'm gonna produce." Actually, I'll have you say, "Let's produce a musical,"
Okay, let's produce a musical.
and then we'll say, "Yes, let's produce a musical," and we'll start rehearsing tomorrow. And somebody will say, "Yeah, let's rehearse tomorrow," and
Yes,
Yeah,
let's
let's rehearse.
rehearse tomorrow and we'll go out and get costumes.
could somebody yes and the costumes? Yes, and those costumes.
Yes, and those costumes will definitely be tie-dye.
Ooh,
Yes.
yeah.
And those
And-
tie-dye costumes are going to be perfect for the 60s theme of the musical.
Yes, and we'll all grow our hair out nice and long and let it be natural for the tie-dye.
Yes.
Dude, I cannot believe we're doing the musical Hair. Yes.
Yes, we're going to do the musical Hair, and we're going to take it to new heights. We're going to have it be an all-female cast.
Yes. And because it's an all-female cast, that means that we will invite trans people to come and play a lot of the roles, because it's a heavily male-dominated cast typically.
Yes, and that's going to draw a lot of press, because it's going to be such an interesting production that we're going to have a lot of people interested in seeing this.
Mhm.
Yes. And I feel like there's an animal that's the
Mm,
main character. This is a
Nice.
new version of hair.
Okay. Okay. Yes, and I feel that the animal main character will be a poodle.
Oh, yes.
Mm.
And poodles are very smart. So this poodle will have the most speaking lines in the play.
Mm. Mhm.
God.
Great. I'm going to pause you there. Give her a round of applause. So a couple things you might notice. There's moments where you're like, can be hard sometimes. And mostly it's because you're like, what did they say? That was odd. But what's great about this is it's a space of non-judgment. So even though you might be having some of those, you questioning yourself, you're questioning others, your little inner critic screaming at you, just know you put this all out there and then you stop and then you can just do another one. And Michelle might say again, I'm going to produce a play. And then we go through that process again and see where we lead. And what we could do is come back and we can look at one little thing that we enjoyed, like, that animal thing was kind of fun. Or a show where we feature lots of trans people. It's an interesting nugget of an idea. Then we get to what do we like about that? In the moment when we're yes anding, we are looking to push through the analysis and the criticisms and work off of each other. And one of the hardest things to do is as soon as somebody adds something on, you have to, even if you had something to build off the person before them, you've got to stop and you have to stay in the moment and you have to add on to the last thing that was said, right? Otherwise you end up in list making zone again. So that's the yes and that's how we create possibilities and lead to more action.
I love that. So if we're talking about the world we want to live in,
Yeah.
can we build the world we want to live in via
Yeah.
yes and? Is that possible?
We can. And like I usually start with I have somebody like build a great picnic, build a great vacation. Also, and where those places usually end up? Within about 12 lines, they end up in a beautiful world that we all want to live in, which is interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because when you use yes and you don't stop yourself from saying the things that you think would be great or that would be a beautiful next step based on what you can bring to the table, you end up all kinds of beautiful places that you don't question. So
Ooh.
yeah, let's see, let's start it with hey guys, let's let ourselves know that the goal is to end up in a beautiful world. So hey guys, let's tomorrow get 100 of our most awesome friends and people we're inspired by and go camping.
Ooh.
And everybody that's in Zoom, let's build this world together. Put on your cameras.
Everybody
We'll
put on your
walk you
camera and
through
unmute
it.
yourself.
Let's see your faces.
Yeah,
We'll see if
we're gonna make it.
everybody can contribute.
We're gonna build the world together. Yeah.
So the key is
There's
to
no
use
rule.
active listening. Active listening means that you repeat back a tiny bit of what you heard the last person say, so that first and foremost, your job is as a listener, an acceptor of the gift before you add your own gift. Because that's the reality. That's where you are right now and you can't go back, right? This is where you are in a moment of time and we cannot go back. So tomorrow we're going camping with 100 of our most awesome friends.
Yes. And we are going to go, because we're going camping with 100 of our best friends, we are going to sing a lot of songs together.
Yes, and because we're going to sing a lot of songs together, my biggest fear is singing. So I'm looking forward to overcoming that.
Yes, and when Sydney starts singing, we'll all sing, and we're going to sound beautiful together and get over our fears.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and when we sing all together and get over all of our fears, I think a really good song to start with would be, I forgot what it was called now, but Hallelujah is a good one. Or Kumbaya was what I was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Kumbaya would be a great beginner song for all of us.
Yes. And when we start singing Kumbaya and sound amazing, people are going to hear us from all around and more people are going to show up at our campsite.
Yes, and then we can teach, yes, and then when they all show up to our campsite, because of that, we can teach them Kumbaya, and we can even hold hands with gloves for the people that are really worried about COVID.
Great. Somebody build off of that.
Yes, and because we have more people showing up who are not already our friends, they're new friends, they might be people that can offer us songs to learn that we've never learned before, maybe songs from their background or their own ethnicities.
Yes, and then it will go viral, and then the entire world will be doing it all with us at the same time.
There you go, Jen. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And when it goes viral and everyone's doing it at the same time, a vibration will happen throughout the globe. And the birds will begin to sing and the chipmunks will begin to chirp.
Yes, and when the message goes around the world and the birds join in, that will raise the collective consciousness and touch even more people in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
And when that
and
go, Vicky.
yes, and all of this transformation will spread through people in the highest echelons of power, such that they will begin bringing compassion into the way that they conduct themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then when they're bringing, the people in power are bringing that compassion and that understanding to themselves, it's going to radiate. And I really see a lot of people in power evaluating their value systems and a lot of people quitting their jobs and a lot of big spots being open.
Yes. And when those people quit their jobs, they're going to join us to create amazing new socially conscious companies that do wonderful things and make money.
Yes, and
Yes.
borders will come down and we will all be able to join hands globally without exclusion.
Yay. Look at, you took 100 people camping and we fixed everything.
Yay.
One thing I want to add too is if you do this with people, one thing I find very often, especially with women, is they will throw questioning words in like, yeah, and then maybe we could do this. And it's interesting because I'd say you can do anything you want right now. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you just asked if you could do that. Like, so notice that sometimes I especially hear that from women where they will throw those like, and maybe it's like, no, you can just right now. You can.
You can do it right now.
Right now.
You've no need to apologize. You can do it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Oh, I love it. So, Michelle LeRoy, tell me a little bit about, because you did stand up for a bit. How did you get into all of that?
Yeah, stopped doing stand-up because of COVID, really. And because I executive produced an all-female stand-up comedy group called the Comedy Coven. And I got into that based on a recommendation of a friend of mine at my old job who thought I was funny and had a friend, this woman, Lisa Sunstedt, who she calls herself the Madam of Comedy because she is actually established the oldest female stand-up comedy troupe in LA. I don't know if it's outside of LA, but definitely within Los Angeles. So that's a huge thing. So I took her class 2.5 years ago, and I met this group of women in the class, and we actually ended up all staying together as a group, which was the first time that had ever happened in her 20 years of teaching stand-up comedy. And we dubbed ourselves the Comedy Coven, and we've been self-producing comedy. So yeah, I really got into it because a buddy of mine was like, hey, you're hilarious. I think you should hone that and be in stand-up comedy. And I was like, you're insane. That's really weird. Here's my $400. Where do I go? So yeah, and it just kind of took off from there. I mean, I'm a performer anyway. I went to school for theater and all that stuff. So yeah, it just sort of felt like a natural thing to me. and I wanted to take a step back from the performance aspect, like about 6 months ago. So the group brought me on, like I said, as their EP, and I've been just kind of helming and helping to guide. We've got a lot of good ideas. It's a very diverse, inclusive group of women, which I love. So yeah, it's been good to get other people's perspective on life and how they got into comedy. But yeah, for me, it was a recommendation, and then I've not really been that person that raises my hand first. So for me to take a leap into stand-up comedy was kind of a big step for me personally. And that came on the heels of getting out of a 7-year-long, mildly abusive relationship. So reclaiming myself and trying something new and being like, this is something that only I own. It's all me. It's nobody else was really empowering. So it was like a reclaiming of me, but ended up being this beautiful community that I'm now a pretty big part of.
I love that so much. And for everybody that doesn't know us and how we met, tell them how we met.
So Sydney and I met, oh gosh, in like 2005. We both worked at Disney World, and we were friends with some of the Disney characters. And I say friends with, so I don't get sued by Disney World for telling you I was Chip and Dale. But yeah, so we met in a break room in between our sets, and Sydney said something, and we didn't know each other at all at this point, but she was on one end of the room on a couch, and there was something on television. I don't remember what it was, but she said something, and I screamed from across the room, "You rock my face." And she was like, "You rock my face." And then boom, we were friends. So that's how that happened. But
And that's it. And that's the story. But
Meets people.
Yeah, we became friends. We got jobs together at a restaurant. So we were waitresses together. We would party together, shop together, just like basic bitch it up. And then it has grown in, I mean, back in those days. But
Sure.
yeah, and we evolved on our own, but together. And we stopped communicating for, I don't know, maybe gosh, like 7 or 8 years or so in the middle there. I mean, we were kind of in each other's peripheral, and then came back together and realized that we had a deeper connection and what helped Sydney start Hiking My Feelings. And yeah, we can't get rid of each other.
No, I can't quit you, Michelle. I can't
quit. I'll never quit you.
But so I just remember, like, I think I did like a play in middle school, and I have a picture of me in a yellow dress. I don't even know what the play was, but I had so I was a gymnast until I was like 12 or 13. And I cut my hair really short, like Amanda Borden, who was the captain of the US women's gymnastics team in the 90s. And so I had my Amanda Borden haircut, which looked like a boy, because their like pixie cuts weren't a thing. It wasn't cute to have short hair unless you were a gymnast. So that's why I did it. And I don't know if like I got made fun of because I was the girl in the dress with the boy hair. Like, I don't know what happened, but I was in one play and then I never did theater ever again. And then the next round of like performance stuff, I mean, like cheerleading was kind of performance because you have to do facials and like look really enthusiastic about stuff and dance and cheer, but it wasn't like theatrical. So when I started working at Disney and I started doing character stuff, I just remember like my favorite character to play, and Michelle and I did sets together. So like imagine the two of us as being like, we were friends with Chip and Dale, the chipmunks, Susie and Perla, which were Cinderella's mice, which were like so slutty, the sluttiest mice you've ever met in your life, because they had big old hoop skirts, and the world was our oyster. Like, we would flirt with the dads, we'd flirt with the uncles, we'd like pony up to them and be all pretty and sassy. And it was like some of the funnest, because funnest is a word. It was it was the most fun I've had in a really long time. And then when I did improv and I walked into class, I didn't realize that improv was acting. Like, I thought I was going to learn how to be funny so I could be on Saturday Night Live someday. And that's not at all what happened. They're like, we're going to put you in like a box and you have to figure out your emotions. And like, there's like happy, sad. I don't remember what this thing was, but it was Foursquare. We did it with Jesse. And it was like happy, sad, something else. And like the closer you got to the middle, you had to like intensify the emotion. And the further you got out from the square, you had to like tone it back. And I was like, I didn't realize that improv is so much acting. Nobody told me that. I had no idea. I legit thought this was my ticket to Saturday Night Live. And then that didn't happen either. So I quit.
Yeah.
Because they don't act on Saturday Night Live.
I don't think so.
I mean, it's
Nope, I didn't know that.
tentative.
See, not a theater kid.
Learn something new every day.
So tell me a little bit about what, because you have recently changed your employment situation, and we were talking about this earlier, and how are you adjusting? Because it sounds like you're kind of in the best position ever as far as like getting in touch with yourself and all that stuff. So like, what has that journey been like for you now that you're not currently working?
Yeah, I mean, so I got, my position was eliminated about 3 weeks ago at the company that I worked for, which on one hand I was totally fine with, because I had been gearing up for a while to leave that job anyway. It was nothing I wanted to do. I was working in accounting, which sucked. So, and I recognize that I am incredibly blessed, privileged, because my unemployment came right through, like things really fell into place for me. But it's nice because I've been able to take the time to really sit and reflect on all the things I said during my 6-year tenure working in accounting, saying like, well, if I didn't have this job, I would do this. If I didn't have this job, I would do this. And I've started doing those things and realizing that I wasn't just blowing smoke up my own ass. Like I really did want to meditate more, and I've been gardening more. Like my garden, I was telling Sydney earlier, my garden has tripled in size just in the last few weeks since I got let go. And it's definitely scary not to have a job, but only because I've, much like all of us, you've been trained to think that your level of productivity somehow is your own self-worth. Like those things don't tie together. Like being productive to make money for somebody else is not anything to do with your self-worth. Being productive in a way that raises consciousness and, I mean, helps people on a soul level with what they're, I mean, I'm really big on like soul's purpose. I started reading a couple of books that are really geared toward finding your soul's path. Like, what did you not do in your past lifetimes that you're here to do this time? And it all ties into like your natal chart and a whole bunch of like astrology. I don't know how, I think probably everybody's kind of woo-woo here.
I'm
Like
into it.
we're here on a well. Yeah. So it's really challenged me to put my money where my mouth is and say, okay, now I have the time, I have the resources, because I was a lucky one that got approved right away for unemployment because I did it during a lull. Like all of these things really fell into place for me. And it's like, some days I just sit around and I do nothing. And I've quickly learned that it's not doing nothing. I'm resting and I'm regenerating and I'm making space within myself to really be open to what my spirit guides and what the universe and what my soul really want for me. Like, this is just a vessel. I'm only here to serve whatever my purpose is. So it's been like intimidating, but in a really good way, to be like, okay, buck up, what the fuck am I here to do, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like when you either jump without a net or the net is ripped out from underneath you, you have an opportunity, right? To be like, yep, okay, here we go, on my own. Because for all of my life, and this was advice that I got, and this was good advice. It's like, it's easier to get a job when you got a job, right? Like you don't like quit and then apply for something new. Like there's some kind of psychological something where an employer's like, oh, you aren't happy where you are? Well, come over here, grass is greener.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found was when I quit the startup, I didn't know what hiking my feelings was. Hiking my feelings didn't exist. Like it wasn't until that I leapt without a net. Like I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have another job lined up. I had been in that job for 90 days. So like I wasn't going to go crawling back to my old employer because that's why I was sick and sad and tired to begin with. But then that created the space for me to have the opportunity to hear hiking my feelings and understand what that could possibly be. So you were talking earlier, and by earlier, I mean, like, I'm continuing a conversation we had with nobody else around. But talk to me a little bit about like recognizing how your energy flows throughout the day. Cause I thought that that was super interesting because I had that experience as well, and like what that means for you.
Yeah, okay. So I was late, literally every day to my job. Part of it is because I'm just a late person by nature. We have a thing in my family called the LeRoy 15, where every LeRoy is going to be 15 minutes late, period. Doesn't matter. Just going to be late. But for me, it was like it was a block. It was a physical, mental, spiritual, emotional block where I so hard did not want to be doing the job that I was driving 1 hour away from my home to do for a multitude of reasons. That it just, I would be 20 minutes late. I'd be 30 minutes late. I'd be an hour late. And God knows I should have been fired years ago simply on that. But for some reason, they kept me on and kept me going. And it kind of just made me realize that this was just like a safety net catch-all kind of whatever job. But sorry, I kind of lost the thread of the question just then.
You're managing how your energy flows throughout the day and having the opportunity to observe that. Yeah.
Right. Sorry. So part of that was forcing myself and forcing my energy to go do a thing that I wanted to do, but also forcing myself to get up early in the morning. And I'm not a get up early in the morning person, not necessarily. I've found in the last few weeks that I'm an afternoon, like my productivity really starts to increase around like 4 p.m. and tell that to any corporate boss. You can't. Like,
right.
So for me, it's been beautiful to to wake up naturally, to work out when I want to work out, to read when I want to read, to, just spend my time and not be so, okay, well, it's 1 p.m. I have to eat lunch, whether I'm hungry or not, because this is my only chance until 7 p.m. when I leave work to eat. So do it now or die, which sucks, So yeah, like it's kind of funny is the wrong word, because it's very disheartening that in this country especially, people are regimented in a way that is so against the natural wave of a lot of people's energy. Like, having worked in corporate America for 6 years and knowing that I wasn't alone, other people struggle. That's why we drink so much coffee. That's why we have Red Bulls and all these things. And it's like, I'm forcing myself to go to bed at 10 p.m. when my brain is firing and I have all these ideas. And I'm one of those people that keeps a notebook by the side of my bed, because I'll wake up at 1, 2 in the morning and have an idea and be like, well, shit, I need to write this down, because when my alarm goes off at 6 a.m., it's all a blur. So I think it's definitely a larger issue that, like I said earlier, our productivity and everything is kind of enmeshed in this structure that only works for a really small percentage of people. And it kind of like, there's a lot of countries now that are doing a universal basic income, and people in this nation are really railing against it because we're so entrenched in corporate America, because we're so entrenched in the 9 to 5, get to work, rat race, all that bullshit. Like, having a universal basic income isn't going to stop people from working. It's not going to encourage people to be lazy. It's going to encourage people to do what I now have the luxury of doing, which is really carving out space for themselves in their own way to find out, what do I really have to offer? What am I really productive in? What am I really passionate about? If I don't have to worry about making money to pay my rent and pay my bills and sustain and, give and like whatever, if I don't have to worry about that shit, if my life expenses are taken care of, like things that are absolutely necessary expensive, not shoes, but like electricity. If I'm not like, oh shit, I'm spending 80% of my time making money just so I can survive, what else is available for me? And I think it's a beautiful question that should definitely be asked, and it's going to be met with a ton of pushback. But really, the more we do for ourselves and our own healing, just the more we're able to do for so many other people.
Mm-hmm. Amy, thoughts? You were nodding semi-aggressively.
I do everything semi-aggressively. Yeah, I have been my quote unquote own boss for gosh, 15 or more years, and I every now and then think I'm just gonna call a recruiter and see about getting a job. I can make a lot of money, and then I'm like, yeah, that'll last long. No, I might. I don't know. Everything's open to me, but I do. I definitely have rhythms. I have rhythms throughout the week. I have rhythms throughout the day, and when I can let myself honor those rhythms, everything works better. and
Mhm.
and when I can get myself to stop trying to do so many things at once, and this has been good practice the past few months. I've been getting better at it.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's
Rhythm. That's huge.
it's so interesting to me, like the because I feel it feels almost well, it does feel weird and inappropriate, but to say like I'm thankful for this pause, but I am. Like I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for like, and for all intents and purposes, like I live in a van. I'm a shade away from being homeless, but like I've never been so happy or felt so free. And I think that there's something really special about being able to find what works for you and creating the space to do what you want to do. And to Vicky's point in the chat, there's so much valuable work that isn't paid. So like in the spirit of creating the world we want to live in, and yes, anding the shit out of that, like what are some of the things that we can start doing for ourselves, by ourselves, that help cultivate that kind of inner peace? Because like the world is melting down around us, but if I'm hearing anything from this chat so far, it's like if we can take the time to, one, not take ourselves so seriously and not take the world so seriously because it needs to change desperately. Like what are some of the things that you do to cultivate peace, Amy, like within yourself? Because these are chaotic times, but you
Yeah.
seem pretty freaking chill right now.
Thanks. One of the things I'm working really hard on, and talked with a therapist about this, is I'm trying to stop worrying about how I monetize every moment of every creative moment that I have, because that is a real pressure of the past few years, because there's so many outlets for it, that if you're not figuring out how to monetize everything you do and create, then you're failing. And that was getting to me. So like when during the shutdown, when the first one, because I was sick for a while, and after I wasn't sick, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna make some silly videos. So I made some really dumb silly workout videos. Like I tried to do Jane Fonda's and Miss Piggy's workout and stuff, and I was just like,
Yeah.
normally I'd have this pressure that not only would I do it, but I would try to figure out how I could, monetize it and all this. And I was like, it is what it is. I just did it for fun. So that's important to me right now. I mean, yes, money's important. At the same time, though, some of the stuff I can do and just enjoy.
Yeah, creating for the sake of creating instead
Mhm.
of trying to sell it. That's nice.
Right.
I like that. That feels so much lighter. And I feel like the things that we do from that space are the things that then naturally monetize themselves because the energy is different. It's not like, oh, I got to go get this money. Here's my idea for how to get that money. It's just like, this is a thing I like to do. And if it works out that is how it goes, then cool. And if not, then that's fine too. And I feel like that's a really beautiful space to be in.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well,
What
money is.
about you, Michelle?
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, what about you, Michelle?
Oh, yeah. Piggybacking off of what you were just saying, money isn't real. It's a made up system. I mean, just like our calendar, like so many things that aren't real. It's just a made up thing that we've all collectively agreed to abide by, right? And money on its own is just an exchange of energy. I mean, you think about back in the day, we used to barter. You didn't have money. It was like, here, I have 12 clams and you have a pair of shoes. Like, let's make this thing happen. So money is kind of bullshit. And it's important bullshit, because we need money to survive. And I really think, like, to your point, Amy, that when you're doing things that matter to you, that make sense to you, and because it's about motivation, right? Like if your motivation is to reach people, to make them laugh, to make them think, to make them pause, money is gonna flow to you. I mean, if you're worried about money, and I'll take myself as an example, because it didn't matter in my time at my last job, it didn't matter how many raises I got. It didn't matter how much my bonus was. It didn't matter any of that, because I never had enough money, because I was so worried about money, because I didn't have enough money. So I was, you know what I mean? And you just get in this vicious cycle where my energy was definitely putting out like, oh my God, I don't have enough. And the universe is like, yeah, you're totally right. Because the universe is just a mirror. Whatever you put out to it is exactly what you're going to get back reflected to you in one way or another. And losing my job, not having an income for a few weeks or, you know, almost a month now, I have never felt more peaceful. Yeah, I have bills to pay, and yeah, there are things, but it's like, is a missed payment on my credit card gonna debilitate the rest of my life? No. Is, you know, me having to call my gas company and say, yo, I lost my job, like I can't pay you guys this month? They're like, okay, yeah, no worries. It's like, it's not a big deal. The less we worry about money, the more is gonna come to us. And I think, like I said with Amy, the more you make things that are, whatever the things are you make, like your friend that wants to have a bakery, or whatever, the tie-dye shirts for our camp out, like whatever the case may be, you make those things with a good true intent, like with a good motivation, and you're not going to have to worry about money.
Yeah. And I think for me, a big shift, like understanding how my energy flows, one, was huge. But two, on the productivity piece, like prior to hiking my feelings, my job was to come up with good ideas. And if I came up with a good idea, then I got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to go execute the idea. So then I get hit with this lightning bolt that is hiking my feelings. And from a marketing perspective, I'm like, this is gold, guys. Like, we are packaging up healing in a way that makes sense. Eating my feelings, drinking my feelings. Like, these are colloquial terms that we use and everybody knows what it means. Like, this is a positive way to replace a coping mechanism, blah, blah, blah. But like, my life and my measuring stick was corporate success. So like, everything I do, I get let down because I'm measuring myself on my corporate stick, where it's like, when we did the Oscar Mayer launch, we launched their digital platform, but when Oscar Mayer didn't even have a Facebook page, the first week we launched, we had 100,000 fans. And I'm like, why can't I do that for hiking my feelings? Oh, because I didn't put $100,000 behind a paid ad. Oh, well, that makes sense. Like, oh, I don't have those resources. That's weird. So it's like, I think one of the biggest things that has been a good takeaway for me, just in doing this stuff with hiking my feelings and paying more attention to my energy, and especially during this little break we've got here, is really wrapping my head around, like, what is my measuring stick, and what do I want to achieve, and why am I positioning myself to be let down when I don't even want to live a life like I did in corporate. So why do I keep holding myself to that standard? Like, hiking my feelings is successful because this book is done. Like, it got out, and it might not have been traditionally published. I might not have gotten a 7-figure advance. I didn't go on some big Michelle Obama stadium book tour. I'm not Michelle Obama. Like, I'm Sydney Williams, and this happened the way it was supposed to happen. And it's just like, we have all these stories that we tell ourselves, and like, thank God I did improv, honestly, because 2018 was my year of creative exploration. I got a camera because one of the stories I told myself was that I could never be a photographer, or I could never get a real camera because my sister claimed photography first, and siblings aren't allowed to have the same hobbies. So like, I couldn't go do it. And then I got a camera on Black Friday 2017, and I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going to learn how to take pictures, and I'm going to do more of that because I think I got a good eye for stuff. And I want to take improv. Like, this is going to be my year of creative exploration. These are things I've always wanted to do. And so while the first couple weeks of quarantine, I feel like there were two distinct camps. It was like, you got to be productive as shit, or you need to cry in a basket. And there's like no in between. You're either like really sad or you're grinding. And like, that's not cool, right? Like, so it's just like figuring out how to like rest and reflect and like burn down your old measuring sticks from other chapters of your life. Cause like, there's all these stories that we tell ourselves. Like, what if I just what if I didn't go do improv? Then I wouldn't have learned about yes and. I wouldn't be sitting here, that's for damn sure. Like, I'd probably still be at the startup just being sad, because like, improv in particular as a vehicle radically changed my life. Like, yes and, if you internalize that, It changes how you communicate with people. It changes how you brainstorm. It changes how you do business. Like, it's nuts. And I don't know where this is going. I just felt like yapping about that for a little bit. I don't have
Yay.
anything else to end with, but
I
like,
love
but you
it.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's wild. Like, these single choices that we make can change the entire trajectory of our lives. Like, that's bananas. Like, Amy, what's a choice that you made that, like, if you didn't make that choice, you wouldn't be right here? Like, what's one of those for you?
Oh my God, there's a bazillion. One of the choices I made was when I was in New York City, and when I was working on television, and I was going, why am I doing this? Like, I'm working nonstop, and this is what I dreamed of doing, but I haven't even seen anybody watch one of these videos. I never even get the feedback. And that company had gone under because they weren't making as many millions as they wanted. And so one of the things that happened is I got a call from a friend in Victoria, British Columbia. I was in Manhattan, and she was like, I'm going to India in a few weeks. And I was like, cool. Can I meet you there? And she's like, sure. And so I ran around, and I got all I got my visa, and I got a bunch of shots that I needed to get. And I got in a plane, and in 1996, met her in the New Delhi airport. And thank God we found each other, because there were no cell phones or texting or anything. And but what that did was, by going, yep, I'm free and I want to go to India, and spent 6 weeks there. From there, it got me thinking that I wanted to do something important where I could have more of an impact, which led me to Teach for America, which led me to New Orleans, which led, like, there's so many of those moments where I just said, embrace the reality, and said, why not? That's
Yeah.
And flexing that why not muscle is what I find I work the most with people on trying to do.
Yeah. I love that. What about you, Michelle?
I mean, on a really personal note, so a couple of years ago, I met one of my now best friends, Kristen, at a fair, and she introduced me to this woman, Emily, this girl, Emily. And I started to become friends with this person, and becoming friends with her she's a lesbian, made me realize that I had been, like, ignoring a part of myself, because I had been, dating men my whole life, but I'd always liked women. But because I'm 30 odd years old, like, I'm not allowed, in my mind, and this is not true, in my mind, I wasn't allowed to suddenly embrace this part of me. But I did, and I embraced the fact that, that I'm bisexual. And meeting Kristen and seeing her find love, and then meeting Emily and realizing that this is a person who, over the year and a half that we got to know each other and got to become friends, that there were so many things that I loved about her, but it's like, well, but she's a woman, so that, big deal, she's my friend, whatever. But then I started dating her, and and I just like, that awakened so many parts of my life that I didn't even know were dormant. It's like, wait a minute, so if I gave myself permission to like, say out loud, even to myself, that I'm attracted to women, what else have I not given myself permission to do? And that's such an extreme case, but there's all these little things along the way where it's like, well, wait a minute, well, I love to garden, and there's so many other people out there that are gardeners, but why can't I also be a gardener? And there's so many people out there that have these interests. It's like, why I've held myself back from so many things and so many interests along the way of my life, because it's like, oh, well, so-and-so is already doing that. They don't need another, whatever. And that's not true. We always need another whatever. So for me, it was really like giving myself, like, permission to just make authentic choices for myself, and in my career and all that, I'm figuring all that shit out. But I mean, figuring out my heart and soul first has been hugely revolutionary.
Yeah, Michelle, talking about self-limiting beliefs a lot. One of the things that I realized not that long ago was, not only am I telling myself, oh, there's already enough people doing that, but I'm also telling myself, when I'm realizing that, like, if I would set a bar where if I couldn't do it better than everybody else, right, I wouldn't do it. And it wasn't because I had to be better. It's because I couldn't stand the thought of being lesser, right? Like, so
Right.
I'm like, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, like, if I'm not going to be better than everybody, I'm not even going to fucking try to do it. Forget it. I'm not
Yeah, I know I could, but
like,
I'm not gonna
without
take that chance.
practice, without going to school, without whatever the knowledge
Right.
If I don't do this thing 110% on the very first try, I'm a
Yeah.
failure.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I was looking at my 6th grade, right here. I'm at my parents' house. I was going through stuff and I found my 6th grade report card. And I'm like, what the hell is this B plus shit about? And I was like, oh yeah, I missed that whole last part for cancer, but still a B plus? What the fuck? Like,
B plus for
not okay.
bullshit. No.
I know when I'm reading Sydney's book, I really resonated. We're a lot alike in that way.
Yeah, and for
Yeah.
me, it's singing. Like, it's taken me so long to say out loud that I'm a singer, and even that still makes me a little uncomfortable because it's like, well, I'm not as good as Idina Menzel. I'm not as good as Bernadette Peters. I'm not fucking Lizzo. But that doesn't negate the fact that I still have talent and I'm allowed to share it. And it's just like, it's a huge giving yourself permission and being allowed to fail, which it kind of sounds like, Amy, and I know Sydney, this is true for you, but you may have been in the same boat where like you grew up as a gifted kid and everybody just had crazy expectations and your fear of failure was so debilitating
It's
that
not allowed.
if you don't start anything, you can't fail at anything.
No.
You just do nothing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the comments are blowing up. So I want Jess,
the imposter
Michelle,
syndrome.
and
That's
Vicky.
exactly.
I want all of you to come on here because
Dude,
Jess, Michelle,
like son.
and
Well,
Vicky.
honestly, for me, I think a lot of it came out of like watching like the boys being given all these opportunities and for doing nothing. And
Oh
I
my
was
God,
like,
can you imagine if
so
we
I'm
had,
going to show you 10 times as much just to get one thing what you, so
like, if we had been raised the way that boys are raised, of like, you wake up in the morning, you're amazing, you're everything, you can do everything, you can have everything, boom, go, bye, have fun.
nothing to
Where
prove.
it's like girls like, be careful. Be careful.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? No.
And also, what are you wearing? Are you wearing that out to
Yeah,
your
slut.
thing? Like,
Mhm.
yeah. Also,
Right.
hey Michelle, if you could just smile more, that would be great. Like,
Yeah, that'd be great. Your hair's a little frizzy also. Yeah.
yeah. That's why I never wore it like this, because somebody told me it was frizzy once, and I was like, well, you know what that is? That's the worst. And you know what? I'm not a woman with frizzy hair, so I'm gonna straighten the shit out of it for the next 20 years. Like, God. All right, so Jess, you said, oh my God, that's me. Tell us about it.
For example, I have owned 5 different guitars in my life. They either get given to someone, stolen, left behind, whatever. I have a beautiful guitar right now. Do I know how to play the guitar? I've even taken guitar lessons, a class in college. Do I know how to play the guitar? No, because in order to play the guitar, you have to practice and you have to sound really bad. And you have to maybe inflict that bad sound on your neighbors and feel bad about yourself, blah, 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 blah. So even though I love to sing, even though I'm dying to produce my own music, etc., for years, I have not picked up the guitar and learned how to play it yet. And it's because I'm not good at it immediately. And the second thing about the gifted program or gifted people, like, yo, so much pressure. I was in the gifted program a few times in my life. When I was 12, though, I was off the charts in reading, right? But math, not so great. And they threw me into Algebra 2 advanced. And I was suffering. And so I dropped out of the gifted program because you couldn't just drop a class. You had to either be in the gifted program or out. And so I got so much hell for that for years, for dropping out of the gifted program because I'm gifted.
I think part of the problem too with like the imposter syndrome and the perfection, all of that is like, you don't see the rehearsal, you don't see the struggle. Like when you see somebody on stage, when we go to an Adele concert, when we watch Hamilton on Broadway, when we whatever, we don't see when I go to a baseball game, I don't see the blood, sweat, and tears. Like I was an embarrassingly old age when I realized that baseball players practice. Professional baseball. I'm like, you're a professional. That's it. You're done, right? You just show up and you do your thing and goodbye. Well, congratulations. Like, no, they practice every day and they eat right and they all the things. And I think that's part of the problem too, is we all always just see the end result. We see, that perfectionism, we call it, because we don't know when they're making a mistake, right? And we don't give ourselves enough credit that, yeah, you have to rehearse. Yeah, you have to like B flat, figure out how to, you know, hit an F chord, whatever the heck you're doing. And that's like, it's good, grossly unfair, and fair being a whatever, a talking point term, but you have to practice. And yeah, who cares what your neighbors think?
Yeah, I'm gonna start learning soon. Like I found the textbook that I bought 10 years ago.
Yeah. Girl, I've had a guitar that I insisted my parents buy me for my birthday, and there was so much dust on the case like 4 years later. You're not alone.
I feel better.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Michelle, Michelle Lee, you were like, yes, me too. Tell me.
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot for a really long time. I was also a gifted child, so there was a lot of expectations put on me. I was also the firstborn. So sure enough, even though I'm gifted, I'm the firstborn and I did everything perfect, I didn't get my bachelor's degree. Things came up in life. I got my associates, but I didn't get my bachelor's degree. So now that my son's a little older, now I have time. A lot of people have told me, now you have time to go to school. Now he's a little older, he can do his thing. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm gonna be a working mom. I have a house to clean. I have a husband to attend to. I have a child to attend to. How am I gonna get my ass back in school? So I'm like, you know what? And my mind is not working out, so I'm just not gonna go. So many people have made it work. So many people have made it work. But if it doesn't go the way I'm thinking about it in my head, like I already feel like a failure. I'm just like, not even gonna bother. Like, because I'm putting all these obstacles in front of me that I already know that if I can't go to school the way I wanna go to school, I'm just like, nah. So
One thing
yeah.
I want to say to everybody who is thinking about trying something or has been saying, oh, I'm putting this off, I want to do it. The thing I try to say to myself is, if you start it and you decide against it, or you find out you don't like it, or you feel you're not good at it, or it's not bringing joy, it's okay. You tried, just stop. There's no shame in that game. And that's what's been hard for me. I tried to learn Spanish for a long time. I went to like a UCSD extension course, and halfway through, I went, I'm going to get an F in this, and I'm not going to die if I do it. And so honestly, like, I take a course, pick up that guitar, and if halfway through you don't like it, tell people, wasn't for me. No biggie.
Yeah, and then at least you tried. And that was actually because I didn't finish, like I didn't go through the whole progression at FCI. Like I got 2 weeks into level 4 and I was like, this isn't for me. That was the first time in my life at 30, almost 33 years old, where I was like, I don't have to finish this to prove anything to anyone. I know that from this point forward in this improv world, this isn't my lane. Like I love the playfulness, I love the exercises, I love the learning. I don't want to perform this. I'm not an improv performer. But I like getting up to the point of making that decision, I was like, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm a lady
Got
that
an
finishes
F,
what she
Sydney.
starts.
We have a
And if
big
I-
book,
yeah.
and next to your name, there's an F for level
Perfect.
4.
Great. For
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Big AF.
Oh God. But that's so true. And like we tell ourselves these stories, like we have to finish what we start. And if you don't like it, then you don't like it. But at least you tried. Like think of how many people don't ever try. Think of how many things I didn't try because I was afraid that I couldn't follow through. Like it's okay to try something and not like it. That's totally fine. I love that. Thank you for that permission. Because we forget about that. Like we think that we can't, and we can. Vicky, what you got?
What do I got?
Oh boy.
Yeah, the whole gifted thing. And here's the thing, like I was good at everything in school, except for guitar class, actually. And when I got a B in guitar because of the damn thumbs, right? My family was like, oh my God, you have a B, you know, and this was in fucking 8th grade. Then I got a B in guitar, and like all of a sudden I'm worthless, right? So there was that. And the other thing, well, there's two other things that are, you know, coming out right now. One of them is all the times like, well, you know, Vicky, for such a smart girl, you sure are, you know, whatever
Yep.
it was I did wrong. And I do have a thing where like I don't notice big things, but I notice details. Like, I mean, the best example of this was my property exam in law school. My professor he said, you are the only person who nailed the rule against perpetuities, which if you know any lawyers, go ask them to tell you about the rule against perpetuities and they will roll their eyes, hit their head against the wall and say no. But I can explain it to you. Like, I may be the only lawyer that can explain it in great detail. But I completely missed the gimme nuisance thing. So like, that's been my whole life, you know, is I'm really great. Like the thing that I'm supposed to be good at, I'm not, yeah, that doesn't make sense, but I think you guys get it. And then the other part of it, and this is a big square I have around yesterday's chapter, Sydney, is you're so good at this, so you have to do it. And yeah, I was a damn good law student. You know, I graduated with a stupidly high GPA from a prestigious institution, and I hate the law so much. And then at the time I had this husband who was like, you know, you did so well in law school, you have to take the bar. That one of my greatest achievements in life is barely passing the bar, because I was proud of myself for not overdoing it. But yeah, and then, you know, so I shoved through the bar and I hated every second of it. And then I started practicing and I hated every second of it. And so much was, you're good at this and it's a thing not everyone's good at. And so you have some kind of obligation to do it, even though it makes you miserable on the daily. So I'm not practicing law anymore, for the record. And yeah, you guys get it. That stuff is just so frustrating. And, you know, and then all of this, you know, being good at all of this stuff, along with the fear that suddenly they're going to find you out and realize you don't actually belong here, which where the hell that comes from, I don't know, but I see so many nods. I know you guys get it.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yep.
That secondary, do you have Capricorn in your chart?
Sun sign, baby.
Girl, noticing secondary details is such a heavily Capricorn trait. Like, lean into that, because that's a talent that not everybody has. Being like, taking the big picture and being like, but wait, what about this? You guys, this is right here. Hello. That's not everybody can do that. So that's definitely a skill that you could lean into. Like, it's not your responsibility to look big picture. That's not Capricorn. That's fine.
I love that.
I love it so much. No, go, Jess.
I love that because the attention to detail, because I just had a brand new lease. I used to work in a document department where I was reading leases all day long. So I'm like, oh, I got this memorized. Oh, I got that memorized. Just got my brand new lease in the email. And I was like, oh, this is a new one. I'm going to have to read this one. And so I took a while and I read every single thing and I sent my brand new landlord. And so I'm trying to make a good impression. I'm a little nervous, make sure, you know, I want the place, right? I sent him back, I think it was like 8 or 9 numbered items. Clause 7, this, clause 8, this. And he sent it back and was like, oh, thank you for reading the lease.
Nice.
So yeah, I get you on that.
I love that part. I love the part about you're so good at this, so you have to do it. Like, I can't even tell you how many times that's kept me in something that I didn't want to be in anymore, whether that's a relationship or a friendship or whatever. It's like, I'm really good at communicating and I make accommodations for people because I know hurt people. And also, don't treat me like shit. My kindness is not weakness. Like, that's a big one for me when it comes to like, you're good at this, so you should stay in it. Like, I'm good at being understanding. I'm good at knowing that people have trauma. I'm good at knowing all these things. And also, it's okay for me to like turn that off and not be friends with people that treat me like absolute trash. Like, that's a beautiful gift and permission that I didn't expect that. Because for me, that was very much like my career. Like, you're good at marketing, you should do marketing all the time. You're good at this, you should do this all the time. Like, I didn't think that that would also carry over into other parts of my life, but it definitely has. And that awareness is like money. It's good stuff. So for everybody that's not currently on video, pop it on. We're going to do the group gratitude circle, and I'm going to start calling names. I see Jason's here, Jennifer's here, Lydia's here. Yeah, let's get you people, let's get you on here too. And we're going to go group gratitude. What are we thankful for? So what am I thankful for? I'll kick it off. I am thankful for the ability to be in community with fine folks like you. That's me today. We've been doing this for 2 weeks now, and we have a week left. And I was telling Barry, it kind of feels like we're at summer camp and like vacations winding down. Like if you've ever been on a cruise and like you've got X amount of days, and then you're like, oh, the days just keep ticking off. Like I feel like I've been on this boat for a month, but I don't want it to end either. That's kind of how I'm feeling today about this campfire. And it's something that I think like I don't want to do it every day, but I want to keep it going because it's lots of fun. So I'm just grateful for you guys for showing up. So thanks for being here. Miss Amy, what are you thankful for?
Oh, I'm so thankful that not only do I get to have some time to focus on sharing a bit of my story, but I get to wear a Girl Scout sash on camera and a tiny little raccoon and bring a little joy to people. So
Thank you for bringing your joy. I love it. Miss Michelle LeRoy, what are you thankful for?
I am thankful / grateful, honestly, to even just discover in this conversation that I'm not alone in my imposter syndrome. I'm not alone in not learning the guitar. I'm not alone in thinking I have to be Adele to put my ass on stage and sing a note. Like, I'm so grateful that I keep learning about myself and am in touch with people like all of you. And I'm grateful for Sydney. Holy shit.
I love you, and I'm grateful for you. Miss Michelle Lee, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful on how Michelle brought up the importance of rest. I struggle a lot with that. My thing is putting everybody else before me, and whatever's left over, it's what's left over for me. That's something that I've been struggling with a lot, and I know that it's important for me to rest, but even during these virtual campfires, when we're not on screen, I'm doing something. I'm listening to you guys, but I'm doing something, when it should be a time for me to sit my ass down and actually like participate. Like this should be my break. But I feel like if I don't get that break, I'm gonna fall behind on housework. I'm gonna fall behind on doing this. I'm gonna fall behind on doing that. But my husband's told me so many times, Michelle, the world's not gonna end if the laundry's not folded. Michelle, the world's not gonna end if you haven't vacuumed the carpet. And then he's told me, Michelle, I'll help you. Let me do this. And I'm like, no, because I have my certain way of doing things. And if it's not done my certain way, I'm gonna go back over there and I'm gonna have to redo it for you because you're not doing it right. So that's why I don't rest. But
How heavy is that canoe, Michelle?
Huh?
How heavy is that canoe?
Yeah, it's very heavy. And then some. So yeah, I need to cut that canoe in half or something so I can finally get the rest that I need, because it is very overwhelming.
Or let somebody else carry the canoe, and know that just because you've let somebody else carry it does not mean you're a quitter or any less strong or wonderful than you are when you're carrying the canoe.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for bringing up the importance of rest.
Yeah.
I love that. Jess, what are you grateful for?
So I had so many different things every night. I mean, every day it's so great. Every day I've been meditating all day long on what am I grateful for? Because I know that you're going to ask me. And so I had to narrow it down, and they're still swirling and combating in my head. So I'm really sorry. But Vicky was posting something earlier tonight, and it was about, oh, what led me here was talking to this person, this and that, and said, hey, I need to make it out to California. And so I started to do that infinite regression thing in my mind of what led me to right this moment. And I really think the big change in my life, like what changed the trajectory of everything in my life that led me to today, was I broke up my family. So we'll just say that. And I'm not saying that to be self-effacing or anything, but kids went away, husband went away. I ended up in a homeless shelter in San Jose by choice because I didn't want people enabling me anymore. And that led me to a really great spiritual center, and it led me to AA, which I needed right then, and a lot of support. And flash forward, that led me to getting this great job. Flash forward, I got my daughter custody, so I moved down here, so I had to work from home. Flash forward, right? All these different things. I'm grateful for the dark and the light and the up and the down and like the horrible depression and the elated mania and all the stuff in between, because it led me to who and what I am today. And it led me to being in community with all of you. And so it's so weird because when you do that, what led me here today, it's kind of a trip. I'm grateful for all of it, even though at the time I really wasn't. I wasn't grateful for a lot of that stuff, but it changed my life.
I love that. And it's hard to be thankful when you're in it too. It's like, that's one of the beautiful parts about reflecting, and one of the best gifts of being human and having a memory that you can jog is like, when you're in it, it sucks most of the time. But
Yeah.
looking back, you're able to connect the dots. So I love that. Thanks for that. Vicky, what are you grateful for?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful for Finest City Improv, because Finest City Improv is largely the reason that I am here. You know, you found Dan through FCI, and Dan gave you to me. So that's everything. And I am also grateful through this evening's conversation has brought me to being grateful that I have been rejected from the several dozen jobs that I've applied for in the last year and a half. And I've said this before, but I don't think I really had internalized it, and I'm still going to be working on that. But I'm not getting jobs because I don't need to be going back into corporate 9 to 5. That's not the right place for me. Well, and it's not corporate, it's nonprofit, it's education, but still, I don't need to be in a 9 to 5. That's not the right place for me. I have something else to do. I'm sort of figuring that stuff out. I'm getting over the guilt that the stuff I do isn't like, I'm not saving the world on the daily with the stuff I create. But that's still the right place for me. So.
Just saving yourself
I
is
love that.
the world.
Oh, I'm hurting myself. Gee.
Yeah, hard yourself. And it's not rejection, it's redirection. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Mr. Jason, God, I'm so glad you're joining these now. I'm stoked about this. For everybody that doesn't know, Jason is the shit.
Well, to be honest with you, I kind of fell asleep for like half of the damn time. So yeah, actually, when you're like Jason, I'm like, oh God, are we doing grateful? No, it was just I like tuning in, and I'm grateful for like hearing people's stories, because it's I kind of like just sort of being in the background and letting everyone's like personalities come out, because I feel like whenever I'm watching the live streams, I can see like everyone's like sensitive belly showing just a little bit, and they're like, okay, this is kind of a place where I can kind of be expressed, where I can talk about this. And the funny thing is, I grew up in a family full of women. I mean, my dad was always around, great dad, but for the most part, I grew up, as the young kid that was always like holding ground, auntie's purse and mom's purse and all that stuff. And I got exposed quite a bit to a lot of like, the little women gossipy type stuff. So it's kind of, but I mean, as I got older, you don't hear that shit, because that's the no chats, kind of, you don't involve the boy in those. So I mean, sitting and listening to a lot of you open up, it's nice to see this side of honesty, and it sucks that I can see how hard it is to be expressive like this for women in the public, and it fucking sucks. And I coming from a guy's perspective, I know why that sucks, because I hear the guy banter. I hear all the big dick measuring and all that shit that goes on behind guys' closed doors. So hearing all of you talk and chat, especially about these things that are very, very personal and very, very sensitive, I get to see the honest side of people. So I get to see probably the most honest side of all of you that I'm going to assume almost even exists. The fact that I get to just sort of like see these little closed door, conversations that you're having, stuff like, I feel inadequate about this way. And it allows me to think to myself, like, fuck, I kind of feel like this as a guy, in my own ways, like these things, again, the proverbial guy dick measuring kind of thing. It's a really real thing. And, for me being a short Filipino guy that's shorter than probably like 90% of men, and a guy who went through like the male pattern baldness plus my traumas and all that stuff, it's kind of like, well, fuck, where does that leave me? And it's weird because you don't hear this from men. You don't hear a lot of these conversations from men, like, at all, unless it's like almost an obvious like fact, like a buddy of mine started balding too, and he's like, hey man, how did you deal with that? It's like, well, you just kind of start to deal with stuff, and it's again, for God, it's a really real thing. But at the end of the day, like, these conversations that I see that you guys are having, men don't like have a fucking Zoom chat where they're just sort of like laying it down, talking about like, hey, so the other day, my left testicle was a little bit small, and or something, whatever random, I didn't notice, but again, back, it's neither here or there, but listening to that vulnerability that everyone that's been on the live stream, that honesty, like, I'm gonna sort of expose myself to this chat group in order to heal, in order to express. I'm grateful to have that, like, each live stream. And that's why I tune in. That's why I kind of like, I'm like this little creeper, like, God, man, this is in the background. I'm like, there's these like interior monologues that go on that like make me remember a moment in time, whether it was, any of the events that have happened, whether it was my fiance dying or my dad going through cancer or my employee dying in the freaking desert, like any of that stuff, and everything in between. Even when it came to, this whole inadequacy, like jumping into not, seeing what I'm not good at. I've already had that conversation with you, Sydney, but it's like, I have so many fucking hobbies that it's easy to see when I am not good at something. So, but I'm grateful for all these chats. Like, as always, like, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. I love it. Thanks for being here.
So,
Jennifer, what are you thankful for?
Well, I have a lot to be thankful for today, which is great. I'm thankful that you have these recorded because I missed the last few nights. I had to get out of San Francisco. There just was too much going on. It feels like a third world country. So I drove up to Reno. I'm at my friend's ranch, and I'll show you. There's a really beautiful view. And then we had dinner last night. So I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
So I'm finally relaxing and feel safe and in good company. So, but that's it for me tonight.
I love it. That's so good. And Lydia says, this is definitely all new for me. However, I'm thankful for having these campfires. Thanks to Sydney and Barry. And meeting and hearing everyone means a lot for me to hear, listen, and relate to each and every one at some point during these talks. I enjoy being in the background for now. And that's lovely. You can stay there if you'd like. And when you're ready to show your face, we'd love to see it. So for everybody that's on YouTube, we will see you tomorrow. We have some great guests tomorrow. We have Catherine Getsky, who's the founder of IFRED, which is the International Foundation for Research and Education on Depression. And Kyle Smith, who is a local musician. His story is wild. He used to be an addict, and I'm not sure what he was addicted to, but his reggae music saved his life. He's clean and sober, and his whole thing is anthems for addicts. So we're going to talk about how music saved his life and how hiking saved mine. And then we also have, oh shoot, I totally didn't even write it down. And then we have a guest, a Hiking My Feelings family member whose name I can't remember because I'm blanking, and I'm so sorry because I love you. So if you're on YouTube, join us tomorrow. We'll be here at 5 p.m. Pacific. If you got something out of this tonight and you want to join what we've got going on, you can donate at hikingmyfeelings.org/give if you want to make a one-time donation. And if you want to join us in the Zoom chats for this last week, there are tickets available at hikingmyfeelings.org/campfire. And as a reminder, this is a fundraiser for the Hiking My Feelings Wilderness Wellness Center, as well as the American Diabetes Association and RAINN. So you're not only supporting our good cause, you're supporting 2 other good causes too. So thank you guys for being here. If you're in Zoom, hang around. We'll do our post-show chat. If you're on YouTube, we'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, Home Scouts. Home Scouts, that's like Girl Scouts, but homies mixed together. You're welcome.